Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, friends, this is actually only the second time we've done this, but it was popular the first time around, so we're going to do it again. We are dedicating this episode to a single book. Both of us read, and we wanted to give our take on that book. And that book, without further ado, is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins.
I was going to give the drum roll, but you
well,
said without further ado, so I didn't.
But post drum roll. I like it because it's still exciting. It is do a drum roll. If you guys are, who right now isn't familiar with Mel Robbins? But she is a speaker. She is a podcaster. She's clearly a writer, the book writer, and Let Them Theory is her third or fourth.
You would know, but I know the 5
I think it's definitely.
I think it's third. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think there's the 5-second rule was her first one, kind of her breakthrough one. Then there was the high five habit and the Let Them Theory, and each of them has been based on one concept, and then she kind of fleshes it out throughout the book. So, Kate, would you like to share what the concept of the Let Them Theory is?
The concept is that you can only control your thoughts, emotions, and actions, and not those of anyone around you as much as we would like to, and as much as we think we can. We can certainly influence things, but we can only control what we think, do, and act. So the Let Them theory is essentially saying, using this mantra of let them do whatever it is they're going to do, think whatever it is they're going to think, say whatever it is they're going to say. And then I think the key concept and why I strongly believe, and we can get into this should have been called the let me theory, is because the far, 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 far more important concept of this book is not just let them, and then you kind of have this superiority of, oh, I'm better than them, let them, which yes, that can certainly work, and that's the first step. But the all-important second step is let me react in the way I want to react, say what I want to say, do what I want to do based on the information I now have from what this other person or people or whatever the world is doing. What do I have control over? And I have control over what I think, say, and do. And so I'm going to use that power to take my next step versus relinquishing power, if you will, to someone else who is outside my control.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, before we go any further, it probably is worth noting that there is on the internet a little bit of controversy. Apparently, there is a woman who wrote a poem called "Let Them," and she kind of wrote a poem about it, and it got some traction, went kind of viral, but it seems that Mel Robbins was not aware of it before she wrote the book, and just do with that what you will. This woman's name is Cassie Phillips. Again, everyone should get their due for the work that they do, certainly. I think it's a little tough when it comes to two words and the concept of letting other people do what they're going to do. I think it's a little bit hard to say it's impossible that two people couldn't have come up with it separately. But do with that what you will. We just want to acknowledge that there is I wouldn't even call it controversy. Yeah, a little bit of drama. So if you're curious, go look at both of these. Look at both of these writers and learn from both of them. But yeah, I mean, the idea is, it's not a new idea either. The idea, well, you can't control other people. They're going to do it anyway. So let them. But what if they talk about me? Well, let them talk about you. But what if they don't invite me to a vacation? Well, let them not invite you to a vacation. What if they
don't respond to my pitch email?
Well, let them. They're going to do what they're going to do. Yeah, we can't control other people as much as it would be very gratifying to do so. And I wish more people would let me try to control them, because, I have a lot of ideas. But we just can't. Fundamentally, we cannot control other people. We cannot we can't make them do what we want them to do. And it's a losing battle to try to expect differently or to try to force people to act in certain ways or I guess really to have different expectations. It's a losing battle. But I agree. I think that the idea of let me is where the empowerment comes from. Right? Because it's okay okay, I'm just all right. So I'm going to let them do what they're going to do. And then what? Right.
Yeah.
And then what? And then, okay, I'm going to let them do what they're going to do. And am I going to sit here and stew? Well, that doesn't seem like a good use of your time either. So what are you going to do now? Now that you are letting people do what they're going to do, now that you are not trying to control other people, now that you are accepting that some things are out of your hands, what are you going to do with all that brain space that you were previously going to use to try to control people?
I feel like there's so much wasted time. I can think of many scenarios we see, especially when it comes to building a copywriting business, such as, I'm going to post on LinkedIn and change my, that I'm becoming a copywriter. What if people in my network think I'm a fraud? And uh, insert whatever it is that you think people in your LinkedIn
fear.
network, whatever fear you have of it is. Okay. So to Nikki's point, you're going to sit and use all of that time thinking of things that you will never possibly have an answer to in terms of what they're thinking? Or are you just going to keep on saying, okay, these thoughts are coming up. I'm going to acknowledge that I'm feeling this discomfort, that people might think something bad. They might also think something good. Doesn't matter either way, quite frankly, what they're thinking at all. I'm just going to keep doing what I need to do. Or, my client sent me feedback and it wasn't all glowing and positive. Okay. Maybe you pair this with Mel Robbins' 5-second theory of, count down from 5. And then you say, I'm going to get to work addressing this feedback. I can respond to my client with a Loom video, walking them through certain choices and why we might need to have a conversation of it. Or, I sent this through without doing a creative review and setting that time up. I really should have walked my client through it. So it's giving you the opportunity to respond with, what do I need to do to change this outcome next time potentially, or just keep on moving forward in a way that gets things back on the right track or gets things on a path that you want to be on. And again, like feedback, I feel like it's such a tricky one. We get feedback all the time, and it's not, sometimes it's going to be glowing, certainly. And I shared this with the group not too long ago that I got glowing feedback from a client along with a 20-minute Loom video of additional feedback, because it is a collaborative process. I could have sat with that Loom video and like, oh my God, 20 minutes, and just stewed in it. But instead, okay, I got this Loom video. I'm going to watch it. Great. Now I'm going to move forward and respond step by step. I'm going to make a list of all the points that I need to address within this copy doc and then do so. And so I think there's so many opportunities for us to use this. But if we stop at the let them, that's not going to take us where we want to go. That's not going to get us anywhere. That's going to maybe help us start to brush aside the feelings. But quite frankly, I don't think it will. I think we can say let them, and it's a nice, easy mantra to repeat of, okay, they're thinking whatever they want to think about me. But we might still feel inside that it might not go away, that feeling of they're judging me or whatever it is. I think until we do the let me and we keep moving forward, that's the way to get out of this place of discomfort of feeling someone's thinking about you doing the thing that you don't want them to do, acting in a way you don't want them to act, whatever it is.
Yeah. For as much as you can't control other people, you absolutely can control yourself. You have responsibility for yourself and for your actions, your thoughts, and yes, even your emotions. Emotions can be a little bit harder to control, but we're all grown-ups here. And I'm not saying don't feel your emotions. Certainly, if you're disappointed, feel a little disappointed. If you're nervous about something, feel nervous. If you're angry, if you're sad, whatever, if you're happy, feel your emotions, certainly. But also if they're emotions that are not moving you forward, if there are emotions that are kind of keeping you in a negative place, feel those emotions, certainly, But then also do some thinking about what can I do to move past these emotions. We talked about the pitching and the let them. Okay, well, you can't control whether or not you send out a fantastic pitch and you send out a couple of really great follow-ups, but you can't control whether or not someone is going to respond to you. You simply cannot. You can do as much as possible to help ensure that it happens or to increase the chances, but you can't control it. And so yes, you can maybe feel a little bit disappointed that you don't hear from a client that you wanted to hear from. Like, oh, I'd love to work at that company. Absolutely. Disappointment, totally, totally reasonable. And then what? Because you can't live in disappointment forever, right? I think, unfortunately, it can be very easy to get mired in that, to get mired in the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So feel the emotion, absolutely. But then what are you going to do? Then what? What is the next step after that? And I think that that's something that, did we talk about this in another episode? You'll have to remind me. But the idea of, okay, so what's the next step? We sometimes we get so, oh, what if this client doesn't reach out to me, or what if this client gives me bad feedback, or what if, right? Which we all do. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We all do that. What if? Okay. Answer the question. What if? Okay. And then what are you going to do? Because life never just stops, right? It's not like a movie where the credits roll and then it either is a happy ending or a sad ending or whatever. It's okay. All right. So the client gave you feedback that you didn't like. And then what? And then what are you going to do? And then what are you going to do after that? Because we're going to keep living, we're going to keep moving and going on. So what is, and I agree, I think the let me portion, and it's in her book, so full credit to Mel.
Mm-hmm.
As if I know each other, as if we're tight. Me and Mel, Nick and Mel. But I do think that is the more, if not the more important, then at least equally important to recognize that you have control of yourself. And I think, unfortunately, it's easy to forget that, right? It's easy to forget that we get to be in charge of what we're thinking. We are not at the mercy of our brains. We are not at the mercy of our emotions, and we're not at the mercy of other people. We are in charge of our lives, and we are in charge of the actions that we take and the decisions that we make based on the things that happen every day. We can't necessarily affect what happens to us, but we can affect what we do after something happens to us.
Mm-hmm. And in probably most scenarios, there's going to be multiple options that you can take. So I'm going to use your, disappointed at whether you're applying to a full-time job or you're reaching out for a freelance pitch and you were so excited to work at this company, and for whatever you heard back, whatever it is, you didn't move forward in the process. There's several actions you could take, and you could take many of them. You could decide to take none of them. So let's start with that. I think not taking an action is still, that's an option. Is it, okay, I thought I really wanted this, but you know what? Maybe I don't actually, because of I interviewed with the team and they didn't actually seem like a great fit. So maybe I was super excited, but no, when I have more information, I'm actually not as excited as I was. And that's okay. Sometimes I think it can be hard when we have like peak excitement to like shift that emotion and realize, oh, actually, that wasn't what I wanted. And that's okay. So that's an option. You could reach out to whoever you were speaking with about the opportunity, if they, whether you sent a pitch or whether you talked with the team, to ask for feedback. Asked, hey, I'd just be curious. I was looking to improve my process. What can I do to improve? You could ask if you could reach back out to them in 6 months. You could do both of those things once you get the feedback. Say, okay, thank you so much for that feedback. Is it okay if I reach out to you 6 months and see if your needs have changed and if we're a better fit? You could say, okay, maybe they did give you feedback, and maybe at that point it's, oh, I need to get a spec piece in my portfolio that demonstrates that I know how to do this work. Or it's, let me send a few more pitches. That's always, I feel like, a great way to get over the disappointment of a pitch you were excited about, to send out more pitches that you are excited about and know that this is part of the process. Emotionally, you could say, okay, this one really stings because maybe it was one of the first ones and you were super excited about it. But reminding yourself this is part of the learning process and that this is making you a stronger, better copywriter, and frankly, just a stronger person in general, being able to respond to feedback or disappointment, if you will, in an emotionally mature way, and just saying, okay, yeah, I'm really bummed, but I'm going to sit with that, but also do these other things. There's just so many so many options that you have. And I think once you take the time to even list out in any scenario what are my options?
Hey there, it's Nikki. I wanted to take a very quick minute to make sure that you knew about our free on-demand copywriting training. Now, whether you are brand new to copywriting or you've been doing it for a while, but you just can't seem to hit those income goals, this training is for you. You are going to learn the 3 secrets to landing freelance copywriting work without relying on frustrating job bidding sites like Upwork or Fiverr, or without cold calling strangers. And if you've watched any of the student success stories on this channel, and if you haven't yet, check them out. This is the exact same training that they all started with. And I mean students like Kate K, who is making 6 figures, working part-time, and retired her husband to help her build her business. Students like Stuart, who replaced his full-time salary, which was a good one, with his freelance income and then some. Stacy, who hit 6 figures in her first 6 months as a freelance copywriter, and Ashley, who landed the in-house copywriting job of her dreams. They all started with this free training, and you can start with this free training too. So sign up right now at freecopywritingtraining.com.
Go to the Facebook group and ask your peers, ask us on a coaching call, whatever it is, for here's what happened. Here's some ideas I have. Are there any other ideas that I'm missing or that I could take in this scenario? To just give yourself that beat to say, okay, how can I respond? And obviously there are scenarios, if you're in a conversation with someone live, maybe you can't run through and write out a physical list of how you're going to respond. But I think in a lot of life situations, we do have time to pause, sit with it, and brainstorm all of the options that we have in our control. And even just that exercise can remind us, oh yeah, I do have a lot of power if I choose to do these things and choose the option that's best for me, versus just thinking, okay, I got this disappointing news or whatever it is, and that's it. It's not it. It's just the next step in life, in career, in whatever, I think we've talked about this before, that it's, there's almost this feeling like, okay, I'll become a copywriter one day, and that's it. I've achieved status of copywriter.
Yeah.
But then every day keeps on going. There's still going to be opportunities. So this let them, let me is a great tool to have, because you're going to keep using. There's going to keep being these decision points for yourself of, what am I going to do? What am I going to do in this situation?
Exactly. Yeah. The really leaning into your personal efficacy. And yes, there is time for, like we were saying, time for feeling those emotions and time for thinking things through. But the more that we all get used to taking action, evaluating what the next steps are, and then picking one. And it doesn't have to be a perfect action, because there is no perfect action, but picking one and then doing it will, like you were saying, just make you a better professional, better person. You said it much more gracefully than I did, but just a more effective person, maybe. I forget who calls it the bounce back rate. But the idea,
I like that.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Apologies to whomever. I did not coin it, to be clear. But the idea of, we're all going to get knocked down, right? And even if it's not knocked down, just kind of maybe knocked down a peg or two, or just kind of disappointed or surprised by things that we thought would go a different way. And yes, again, feel those emotions. But the faster you can get from, okay, I felt those emotions, now what am I going to do? The faster you can start thinking in those terms, the happier you're going to be overall, right? The more you, and it doesn't have to be speedy by any means, but the more, and yet I still keep saying faster, but the idea being, I guess, maybe the more smoothly you can move from, oh, I'm feeling this disappointment, or I'm feeling this negative feeling, into, okay, now what am I going to do? What are my options? And then taking one of those options, the happier you will be overall, because it's taking those actions, it's evaluating those opportunities, and then continuing to move forward, that opens things up for us. Sitting at home feeling disappointed doesn't affect anything. Right? There's no change in status of anything in your life, and in our lives, to be clear. I'm 100% talking about myself as well. But to sit home and reflect or to feel bad, which again, there is a time for that, but it's not going to change anything. The only way that things change are if you change them. So yes, absolutely let them, but then what are you going to do about it? How are you going to move on? Let me do what? What are you going to do about it? Maybe that's the title of our book. Oh yeah? What are you going to do about it?
Fighting words. I think too, just in terms of feeling the emotions of it, I like to genuinely set a time limit on it. So something, for example, I'm going to use, we'll see how this goes. Thinking of like, okay, a pitch I sent gets a response that is a bummer. It's a company I'm excited about, and they say, no, we don't want to move forward with you. For that, I'd give it, genuinely, I would use Mel Robbins' 5-second countdown from 5. Okay, this stinks. Okay, that wasn't what I wanted. Okay, maybe there were opportunities I could, for each of those 5 seconds, maybe I'm just letting myself think through whatever I want to stew in for those seconds. And then, okay, I'm going to go write another pitch and send it out because that's productive. It's going to make me feel like I'm planting more seeds in that garden of my copywriting career. Great. Maybe then I get feedback from a client I'm working with that is not top notch. For that type of thing, usually I will walk away, go on a walk with the dog for 20 minutes, half an hour, clear the brain, come back and say, okay, I'm ready to face this now, and I'm going to address this feedback in the best way I know possible. And then for something bigger, I don't have a copywriting example because quite frankly, in the scheme of life, I feel like copywriting, we should be moving through these emotions a little quicker than maybe health news. That's, I got bummer news from a doctor not too long ago. It wasn't not life or death, but like I let myself say, okay, tonight I'm going to have a glass of wine with dinner. I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to get a good night's rest, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow and just kind of let my day take the evening to just not put pressure on myself to do a ton of stuff. But for everything, just putting those time limits is really helpful. Okay, I'm going to sit in whatever this is, but it has to have an end point. And so whatever that is for you might be different. It might be setting a literal timer on your phone. And maybe it's doing something semi-productive in that point too. Maybe it's journaling, getting that out, just getting those feelings and thoughts and emotions out. That could be really helpful for me. But making sure that you're putting some sort of boundary on feeling those things that, again, we're going to feel and should feel.
Well, and I like your example of going out for a walk, right? Because it gets your body moving. Because when you're sitting in one place just ruminating on something, your brain is just. But when you get some blood pumping, and truly a walk is one of the best things that you can do for your body and your brain. But it gets some blood pumping. You get some oxygen in those lungs. But it also, get out of the house. It gives you some perspective. Right? Once you're walking for a little bit and all right, you're still thinking about it, sure. But eventually you kind of, you get acclimated to whatever just happened to you, right? Like, oh, I had some crummy food, but also getting yourself moving. You can also then get a little bit of perspective. Like, oh, that was crummy feedback. Yeah. But you know what? Here I am in this big, beautiful world. And this is one client out of the hundreds that I will have over the course of my career. Going for a walk and even just getting away from it, do the dishes, get away from it, and don't ruminate as much as possible. Just give yourself a little actual physical space from whatever it is to give yourself some perspective, because you deserve perspective. And most of the things that we're dealing with, obviously health is a much more what's the word I'm looking for? Deeper, more trying issue. But most of the things that we're dealing with a little bit of perspective, it's not actually that bad.
Yeah, and frankly, I feel like the walk it strips it of so much of the emotional charge, because half the time we're the ones adding the positive or negative take on it. Typically, when it comes to feedback, when it comes to a no to a pitch, it's more direct and just is than positive or negative. I think it's us that are like, oh, that's bad, when no, it just, they didn't need a copywriter, or it's not the right fit, or it's not the right time, or what. That's not positive or negative. It just is.
Yeah.
And so I think going for that walk, you come back and realize, oh, okay, that actually wasn't like, I read it the first time and it was very like charged. But okay, I have some perspective. No, I was the one adding that layer of
the
positive,
interpretation.
negative take. Exactly.
Yeah, there are the facts.
Yes, right.
And then there's the interpretation.
Yes.
And I mean, not to get too far down the feedback rabbit hole, but it's also the voice that we read it in can sometimes, you can read it in a, we thought this was blah, 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 blah. Whereas someone else might read it as, we thought this was, silly example without actual words. But so much of the way that we view the world and the way that we view the things that happen to us are our interpretations of situations. And even when we're saying, let them, well, they were mean and they didn't invite, I think that was actually something from the book was her friends didn't invite her. Friends from the old neighborhood didn't invite her on a trip. And then as she reflected on it, she's like, oh, actually, I haven't really talked to any of them in a really long time. And I actually haven't invited them on anything. And all of a sudden, the fact is that they didn't invite her on the trip, right? But the interpretation was they're being mean to me, they're excluding me, and
they don't want to be my friend anymore.
Exactly. But the further facts are, but you also have not reached out to them. You also have not talked to them. And she's very forthcoming and very, very, she knows that she is not perfect, as we also very clearly know. But the interpretations often compounds any negativity or may even create negativity that's not even necessarily there. Yeah. So lots to think about. We definitely, if you have not read it, we would encourage you to read the book or get it from your library. Even better, support your local library.
That's what I did.
Exactly. We have librarians in the family at our company, Mrs. Sitars. So definitely check it out. She has some good episodes of her podcast as well, the Mel Robbins podcast, talking about the book. But we would really encourage you to, as with anything, right? As with anything, any good books, is figure out how you can best put it to use for yourself and really lean into the idea of, okay, yes, absolutely. There are things that I cannot control, and that is a fact of life. But what I can control is me. So what am I going to do now? What is my next step now? So that's what we have to offer you. This, like we said, this was the second time we've dedicated a podcast to a full book. If you liked it, let us know. If you didn't like it, well, just be kind. We'll just put it that way. But if you did like it, we'll perhaps do some more of these in the future. So
we'll let you have your feedback, and then we will decide what to do with it and how to feel about it.
If you're mean, we'll cry a little bit, and then we'll
improve
move on
moving forward.
Yes, exactly. All right. So we will catch you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.